I have a dream, a vision of a hydrogen-powered planet. I wish I could take credit for the title, but my friend Chip called me last week and asked me to come to this meeting and share a few things about what I've done in the past and where I'm going in the future. So, anyway, I give Chip credit for that, and he asked me to share how I became so keenly focused on the world's hydrogen energy issues. And you know, honestly, I wish I could take credit for it, but every single one of my inventions and a plethora of technical fields over the years of my life have come as an epiphany or a revelation. So these epiphanies, and I believe God gives these epiphanies out to literally thousands of people simultaneously. But only those people who have prepared their minds and learned enough to understand the epiphany are actually able to understand it, and only that subset of those people who have persistence and determination can actually bring those to fruition. So I fit in that latter category. You know, to most people, these epiphanies, you've probably all had them before at some point in time. Some of these epiphanies are, they're like a flash in the pan. They're like, you go, oh wow, you know, that's phenomenal or whatever, and then it just fades away. Because that's what happens to most of the people, but only the very few can actually act on it. It seems like the majority of my epiphanies come at 3:30 in the morning. And I have to grab a pen and paper or a computer and write it down immediately, because once it's gone, it's gone. And I've never seen one repeat in all my years. And that's why I get up at 3:30 every morning, even on weekends and holidays. And I've done that all my life. And by the way, in passing, that image there is an excerpt from my new book entitled Real Big Bang that's coming out in the fall. So I'd encourage you guys to get a copy of it. Okay, the photograph in the upper right is the one that you put into the program. And that was taken by my fellow students at Fermilab in Chicago. And when I was working on my PhD in physics. And that's in the Wilson building, which is shown on the lower right down there. And that was named after the Wilson who came up with the cloud chamber, you know, the alcohol vapor that, so you can see the particles spiraling or going through the cloud chamber. That was the same Wilson. And this is when we were chasing the Higgs boson. This was taken when we were chasing the Higgs boson. You can see in my photograph picture right in the middle on the right in that standard model, the Higgs boson there. And it's affectionately referred to as a God particle. But anyway, we finally chased it. We finally found it in July of 2012 at CERN. That's a European Center for Nuclear Research. That's in the lower right down there. That's that shows the superconducting magnets. And if you look right in the center near the top, you'll see the two tubes. There's two counter-rotating tubes that are 2 inches in diameter, and you have to keep the particle ensemble inside that tube while you're approaching the speed of light. And one tube, the particles go this way, and the other one is counter-rotating going the other way. And then they cross over whenever you want, whenever you select it, they cross over and go through that detector. The Atlas detector's on the upper right up there. And that, coupled with the compact muon solenoid called the CMS, is those two teaming up is how we found the God Party. And I'd like to share with you a little enigma of mine. And even all the years I was chief architect at Intel, I gave this to my new hire employees to test their knowledge, and even after that, in all my years, only one person has ever gotten this correct that I've asked it to. So I'd like to ask the audience, I don't know how many techno geeks are here, but does anybody know the answer to this equation? If you do, raise your hand.
The void.
Nobody knows the answer to it? Okay, I got to give the green energy football to somebody, so somebody answer that question.
The void.
Love.
Who wants a green energy football, and I'll answer it for you. All right. Okay. So anyway, e to the I pi, which is Euler's rule, and the integral of the Dirac delta function, the sum equals 0. And what's really intriguing is that e to the I pi, a transcendental number raised to the power of an imaginary number times another transcendental number equals -1. Because I think everybody knows the Dirac delta function equals 1. Because it's defined as, by its definition, it's defined as unit energy that's collapsed up to 0, so it becomes kind of an infinite spike. But when you integrate it, it comes down to 1. Okay. Many of my associates give me credit for developing the first PC, the first personal computer. And whoops, it didn't go forward. It's not very pretty, but it was pretty back then when I developed it. And unfortunately, I developed it initially for the seismic industry to find oil offshore. I know that's a 4-letter word in the present company, so I'll just keep moving forward. So, this was developed before the Altair, before the TRS-80, before all. This was developed in 1971. So anyway, I used the output from this. The second generation is the array processor board shown on the lower right there. And I put that in, I use this system not only for 3D image processing, but I also use it for biomagnetic technologies, use it in the superconducting quantum interference device. And it's 37 concentric doors that are sensors that sense misfiring neurons in the brain, and actually has cured many forms of epilepsy. So that was good. And I also use it to develop the world's first echocardiogram machine, working with Advanced Technology Labs in Seattle, which is now Bristol Myers Squibb's Advanced Technology Labs. But anyway, and I used it on the phased array radar, and the next iteration of this array processor is what I call an optical systolic array processor, and that's what I actually used in the phased array radar for some of the strategic defense initiative stuff. So, and that's where I met Dr. Edward Teller, who was my mentor for many years. So, he was actually my first mentor. Come on, you can do it. Okay, and then while at Intel, coming forward to 2002, I developed a precursor to the iPhone I call it PAWS, Personal Appliances and Wireless Services. I developed that in 2002, 5 years before the iPhone. And I also co-founded several other businesses at Intel, and received many patents from Intel. They give you $1,500 in a plaque for a patent, you know. And then they make billions of dollars off of it. Thank you very much. So my last few years at Intel, I went to my boss and said, I want to start a green energy company, actually a hydrogen fuel cell company. So, and my boss was John Miner, and he said, well, we need a tiny little fuel cell for a laptop. And I said, John, get real. You know, I want to solve the world's problem, not some little microcosm over here. And I said, anyway, in a year or two, you won't be able to take the fuel for those things on an airplane anyway. And sure enough, a year later, I went back to them. They had stopped it. The TSA had stopped it. So anyway, I was born out. So then after these two hydrogen fuel cell companies, I began developing other green energy companies and selling them. So that's what I've been doing for the past few years. And right now I'm working with my son. On 3 projects. And my sons have been blessed just like I have. They have many of them. Excuse me. They have many of the talents I do, and even some that I don't. I apologize. So, anyway, my youngest son is the inventor of that engine, and his name is the only name on the patents for it. And he's a self-taught engineer. I mean, he taught himself SolidWorks, finite element analysis, computational fluid dynamics. He taught himself all the math and everything needed to completely develop, simulate, and completely validate that revolutionary new multi-fuel engine, which runs on, among other things, hydrogen. And it dramatically increases the work extraction by the piston to maximize the efficiency. And since it doesn't have to obey the Carnot cycle and the second law of thermodynamics, we can get it up to theoretically 100% efficiency. It's at 60% currently, which is double any other engine on the road today. And the desalination system uses less than 10% of the energy that all the other desalination systems in the world use today. And then the hydrogen, proliferating hydrogen is my final goal, to tie all these 3 together. And actually all 3 of these are synergistic in the hydrogen energy world. So we've invested a couple $1 million of our own money, but in the interest of full disclosure, I have 2 minority partners who have been partners with me on several other businesses. So anyway, thank you. And any questions or comments, here's my contact information. Thank you.